Hi, everyone, and welcome to How to Do Effective Housing-Based Case Management. This is Ashley Halliday-Schmidt, and I am the Director of the Northwest Michigan Coalition to End Homelessness. And I'm coming to you today through a partnership with the Michigan Balance of State Continuum of Care in order to provide a training series on effective housing case management. And today we're going to be talking of all things exit planning. So if you've been following along with our training series, here's the training outline, goes over all the things you've probably already talked about or listened to rather, and now we're getting near the end for exit planning. So what to do when you feel like your client in your housing program is ready to exit. And I will pull up those slides now. So primarily we're going to be, in this instance, talking about folks who were entered into a rapid rehousing program. So this is not necessarily indicative of like a permanent supportive housing program or something very long-term. This is more for a short to medium duration program like rapid rehousing. Okay, so here we go. Exit planning. We're going to be talking about how to really engage clients around their exit plan as a tool for helping people prepare that have been a part of support programs and decreasing and then finally ceasing their involvement with the supports, while always promoting ongoing housing stability and being able to empower folks to maintain their housing long term. So the exit plan involves a plan to maintain housing long-term without subsidy related to rapid rehousing. Folks might have a long-term, like a housing choice voucher or something like that, a longer-term subsidy to take with them. But as far as case management goes, that will be ceasing through the exit plan. It involves doing a skills and a risk assessment, and then also assessing the support network that folks have developed throughout the program. All things to take into consideration when you're starting the exit planning process with your clients. The other thing I'll say is that during exit planning, you really want to start the conversation almost at the beginning of folks entering the program. So day one that someone enters rapid rehousing, you're starting to talk about the process that will take place through case management and how you won't be there forever, and really empowering them to make the steps necessary in order to not need the program long term. So we're starting exit planning at day one. This is ORGCODE's Excellence in Housing Exit Planning tool. We've been talking about ORGCODE's tools throughout this training series, and this is just another great one to use. So through exit planning, you're going to, again, as I've said in other trainings in this first box up here about us, you can choose to put health insurance there. You don't have to. Again, these are not, you don't have to take these forms as black and white, all or nothing. Use what works for you. Through exit planning, you really want to make sure that folks are listing out emergency or medical contacts. The crisis plan document through ORGCODE that we've already talked about in this training series offers this information as well. So like many of these tools, exit planning takes place in a conversation between the housing-based case manager and the client. So a lot of these things are just conversational based. You can take notes and really develop the form as you go. So one thing you want to start with is, how is the client going to continue to pay their rent on their own? Now that's making the assumption that they are not bridging to a housing choice voucher or some other sort of income-based or subsidized housing. This is in the instance of like a true rapid rehousing, going gradually taking over the rent payments and then eventually doing that 100% on their own. Or you could look at this in the context of going on to subsidized housing, but still needing to pay a portion of their income towards the rent. So for example, a housing choice voucher, even if the participant has zero income, they're still, or used to be, made to pay about like $50 a month, something like that. So there is a place where you're going to need to talk about how are you going to continue to pay for that rent. And if you notice in the exit plan, we can really incorporate all of the other tools we've built on throughout this training series, like the honest monthly budget. Here's where question 1 is where the honest monthly budget can come into play. So use that tool to inform how folks will do rent on their own going forward. So the next question is, I will make sure that we don't get kicked out of the apartment by doing or not doing the following things. And this is really around all of the other things like maybe guest policy or crisis plan, or even the honest monthly budget. All of those things that you went through throughout the course of working with the client are things that can inform this question. And maybe they were great the whole time, there were no issues, and that's why they're exiting off the program. And you can just write down strengths. You can write down things here that they did really well. But maybe there were some issues along the way, and how can we use what we know from the tools we already have to inform these questions. We are ready to live with greater independence and without housing program supports because, and that one's one for them to answer on their own, obviously. What are some things that they did really well and they've improved on, and where they don't need you guys anymore? I'm try to zoom in a little bit on this one. So these next ones you can really use the crisis plan also to inform. So if our housing becomes unstable, we will do these things. Does that mean they're going to contact the HARA in the region? Does that mean they have support people in the community outside of the homeless response system that can help them? Do they have a faith-based community that they might be able to reach out to if the housing is becoming unstable? Signs our housing is becoming unstable. So if we are getting towards the end of the month and we know we're not going to have enough money to make the rent payment, if we've gotten 2 lease violations in a month, if whatever thing happens, here's where we help to identify those things with the client. And then if the housing actually does become unstable, so it's not becoming, but it has become unstable, these are the things we'll do. And here's some areas that you can work at. So like the first one, areas of our life that we are still working on. These are the things that maybe you weren't able to accomplish absolutely everything during your time together. However, maybe some of them weren't necessarily those really housing focused things that we talk about. You know how we used to talk about, or he used to, in the other trainings, we've talked about, oh, sorry, I lost my train of thought. That we're always asking folks, how does this relate back to your housing? How will this choice impact your housing? If there were things that you all talked about that you felt like didn't impact their housing, but really did have an impact on their life, these are things that you want to list here. And how are they going to work on those? So it's almost like developing this future focused case plan that you won't be there for, but you can help link them to supports in order to achieve their goals. And we already talked about that one. And then here's really, in the exit plan is another tool you can use to inform it, this is like a risk assessment. Let me zoom in here. So I like to do these with clients almost maybe halfway through. So halfway through whatever length of time you think the client might be engaged with you. Maybe just for yourself, do kind of like a self-assessment. Do they know how to clean their apartment? Do they go grocery shopping independently? Do they pay their rent? Do they know how to speak with their landlord, do their laundry, pay their bills, et cetera, et cetera. So you can kind of help guide where they go next, and what your focus would be during those home visits if they want to work on those things, right? So if you see that you've kind of checked no to 5 or 6 of these things, maybe you want to offer those up during your case management home visits to say, these are things I've seen that I really think it would be a good idea to work on, because when you've mastered these things, we know that you're getting really good at maintaining your housing, and maybe we can start to taper off our visits. Okay, so just along the way, keep thinking about this skills assessment. These are all things that are proven to help someone maintain their housing if they have this ability to do these things. So we want to make sure that we have yeses on most things. If we have no's and you are still wanting to proceed, and you still want to proceed with exiting, there needs to be kind of a plan to address them. So maybe, let's see here. Maybe folks are still struggling with filling the days with things that make them happy, but you feel like they pay their rent on their own, they take care of their place, they don't have guest issues, they've had no lease violations, et cetera, but they're still working to try to find meaning. Sometimes that just takes a really long time for folks. And that's key in helping people maintain their housing, but that's something that can be worked on outside of you and through building social networks and community supports. Okay, so you just want to make sure there's a plan around that if you're still going to exit. And then here we talk about their social supports and support networks. Here you want to list people they feel like are part of their support network, and how to contact them. This is key to if they ever receive an eviction notice or be told by my landlord that we need to leave, here's the things that we need to do. So this is kind of the, I can't zoom in. This is the crisis moment for a lot of people, especially if people have had really episodic periods of homelessness where they fall in and out of homelessness frequently. We want to make sure here that they have a plan. They don't just kind of get paralyzed by the crisis and not do anything, and then they do get evicted, when really there could have been mechanisms or agencies put in place prior to that to be able to help them and maintain their housing. We don't want them to wait till the last minute to seek out support. Let's see. Yep, and that's it. So again, these tools, I'm going to go back to this. So the tools are all available on ORCODE's website. You can just download them for free and utilize them with the help of this training. But exit planning should be a process that starts with traditional rapid rehousing at kind of within the first 2 months of becoming housed. You're always talking about what's the least amount of assistance you think you'll need in order to do this long term and maintain your housing on your own long term. So if you start exit planning and really use that skills assessment I showed, where it is right here, as a way to guide what you're doing with folks in housing, what you're working on, and what they want to work on, this can be a really good tool to gauge kind of if someone is ready to do this on their own. So that is exit planning. So this pretty much wraps up our training series on doing effective housing-based case management. And hopefully you've enjoyed these trainings and learned something. If you have any questions, please reach out to me at any time. Thanks so much, everyone.